I feel no responsibility whatsoever for what has happened to these people because I fought it, as did you. And my feeling is this is the point where the people who fucked this up need to step aside, right? There now needs to be a conversation between those of us who did stand up for the rights of straight white men and have been demonized for it and for many other imagined crimes, right? That's the conversation that needs to happen. Those of us who understood this was a mistake and opposed it need to now have a conversation with those who are tearing up the system because they have no investment in it. That isn't their fault. They were betrayed. It's not just that they feel it. They were betrayed by this system, and they've had enough of it, understandably. And I also hear in what you're saying, your issue is fairness. Yeah, mine too. In fact, I think you are not talking about the West unless you are talking about a level playing field. And a level playing field does not mean one in which we, count the number of people of various skin colors in various professions and go around equalizing things. When you make an appeal to living naturally, that's the point. You have to formally have the right to get somewhere based on merit. And then whether you choose you want to go in that direction or not is up to you. And your final point, I think, is excellent, and it's devastating. Civilization liberates individuals. Western civilization does so. It is the strongest argument in favor of it. But it cannot liberate individuals in a way that destroys the system that protects them to be free. And to the extent that we have run a radical experiment by taking all of the logic out of the male-female dynamic, what we've done is we've created a self-defeating civilization. And that is not an argument against I'm speaking purely for myself here. That is not an argument against women being welcomed at all layers of civilization. However, I want to make a point that I first arrived at in the realm of science. Science used to be a boys' club. That is galling. If you're a woman and you have an interest in doing science, it's galling not to be allowed in. However, at the point that women arrive in the land of science, we are not benefited if the rules of how science is done are rewritten in a feminine mode, because what makes science work is holding each other's feet to the fire. So the point is, if you want to do science, you've got to do it by the rules that work, which happen to be more boy-like than girl-like, right? Reflexive support has no place in a science lab. You can want your fellows to succeed, and the way that you make them more powerful is to call them out when they're making logical errors so that they get stronger, right? That male mode has to be democratized, and everybody in science has to play by those rules in order for science to work at all. And so I would say the larger dynamic is the same one. We can't feminize civilization, because a feminized civilization is not going to survive. Civilization has to function. Everybody should be free to aspire to whatever roles they want, but the rules that govern that role have to be ones that are sensible from the point of view of the civilization continuing, defending itself, achieving the objectives that we've agreed on. And I see exactly the opposite unfolding. So I don't know how many of us there are that have stood up for those principles or similar ones, but I think we need to come forward now and say, actually, their gripe is correct. And those of us who wouldn't have allowed this to happen are probably the ones who should be doing the talking.